Sorry about that. I should have known that. Okay, take it from the top. So everyone should have their plan, the 2020 business plan. Everyone should also have a yellow pad of some kind. Yep, thank you. Everyone should have a yellow pad and a pen of some kind, because I'm going to be making notes with the plan with you as we go through the plan. Now, let me tell you first why we decided to do this. Number one, it's 2020, so it's a new decade. But number two, more important than anything, the reason why this plan is particularly important is because not only is our market changing in most areas, but our industry is changing, all right? So again, I know some of you guys are just chiming on. If you didn't get a copy of the plan, we will send it out to you after the video at this point, and we are recording this, so we will send out the recording as well, so just follow along and take notes the best you can. Going back to the reason why this topic is important, because our industry is going through a shift right now, and it's a shift where technology and advancements in technology is creating a position of less loyalty between our consumers and us as realtors. So as you'll see as we go through this plan, a lot of the focus for this year will be based around how do we create more loyalty from the clients that we currently have, and then of course, how do we add more people to our database? So I will be walking you through those couple of things. If you would do me a favor, go ahead and turn your business plan open to the first page. We're gonna start with section 1. Give me a Glover U planner. Section 1, it says 2019 projections based on year to date. Now the first couple of sections, for those of you that are high analyticals, high C's, you're gonna geek out on the first couple sections. Everyone else, especially you high I's and you high expressives, just bear with me. We'll get through the number stuff and we'll get into the fun stuff soon. But for my high analyticals and my high C's in the room, we're gonna be going through some numbers. We're gonna be talking a lot of numbers here in a minute. Then we'll get into some of the fun stuff. So let's talk about the 2019 projections. By the way, we've been operating from a plan that is similar to this plan for the last decade. So we've been working with agents for the last decade specifically on this plan. We have made some significant changes to it. And by the way, it's the first time we've made major changes. We've always tweaked things and modified things based on what's going on in the market or in the industry. But today we've made some major changes to the plan. And I'll go through the whole plan and obviously point everything out to you. So starting with section 1, 2019 projections, all right? We are heading into the month of December, the last month of the year. So by now, you should have a pretty good idea of where you're going to finish up. And I'm not necessarily going to spend a ton of time walking through every single one of these, so I'll just go through them fairly quickly. But if there is one that I think I need to dig deeper on, trust me, I will dig deeper on it, okay? So taking a look at 2019 projections, in order to know where we're going in the next year, we got to know what we did in the previous year. Seems pretty common sense, right? So starting with total income paid, that's obviously the money that's been paid to you before taxes. Total closed deals, how many closed deals you're going to end up with, how many appointments you went on, how many listings or listing appointments went on, how many listings taken. Of those listings taken, how many listings are sold? Now I want to stop there for a minute. Those three numbers are very important, because then once I know my ratios, once I know, all right, I went on 50 appointments and I took 25 listings, we know you're off 50-50 conversion. 50% of the appointments you go on, you convert. Why is that number important? Because when we go into 2020, it's important that we know, okay, if I want to take 30 listings, I got to go on 60, for instance. Now, of course, I would argue that if your skills improve, maybe your percentage of conversion will improve, but at a minimum, we can start to learn these numbers. So total listing appointments, total listings taken, total listings sold. Got to know those numbers. Buyer controlled or buyer consultations leads to how many buyer offers written, leads to how many buyer controlled sales. By the way, let me give you some sample numbers, or what I would call some rules of thumb. These are numbers of associates that work with Glover U and associates that work with us, and these are some of the ratios we share with them. So let's first look at listing appointments gone on to listings taken. If you want to just make a note in the left margin, or if you have a yellow pad that you're keeping track on, listing appointments gone on to listings taken should be at least, you want to strive for 65%. All right, when we coach agents, and a lot of them come to us, they're taking a third or 25% or maybe 50%. Our goal is to get everyone up to 65% gone on to taken. Now, if you're out there saying, well, 65%, I'm doing 80 or 90. Well, then I would say you're not working with enough people that you don't know, right? There's two types of people we know, people we don't know. Which group is bigger? Obviously, the people that we don't know. So if you're working with only your sphere of influence, then your percentage will probably be higher. But once you start working with strangers, prospecting, mailings, open houses, door knocking, whatever, then that number starts to come down. The benchmark is 65% of appointments gone on to listings taken. Another benchmark I want you to write down, if you're following along, you can do this on the left-hand side of the plan. Total listings taken to total listings sold. That number should be 85%, meaning it should be your goal to sell 85% of your inventory moving forward. Now, some of you may say, gosh, I took 20 listings last year, I only sold 10. Well, then your number would be 50%. We'll obviously got to work with you on helping you understand pricing and how to present price and how to overcome objections in relation to price. But our goal is for every agent that works with us at Glover U, they sell, penned 85% of their listings taken. All right, let's move down to buyer consultations to offer written. We believe that for every 3 buyer consultations, you're going to have 1 offer written. So 1 out of 3 buyer consultations is going to lead to an offer written. So if you want to put in there buyer consultations to buyer's offer written, that would be 33%. So you meet 3 new buyers, 1 of them you're going to convince to make an offer with you. Now, of course, that's taking into consideration that you're having a good buyer consultation. A good buyer consultation consists of a sit down. I'll give you 2 thoughts on that. Number 1, you should make sure whenever possible to do the buyer consultation at their home. Why is that? Well, because when you ask the question, how much are you planning on putting down on your next home? They'll say to you, well, I don't know. We need to know what our home is worth. And then that's how we lead into listings taken. The reason why it's important to do it at their home and not at the office, you've heard for years, come into the office, do it at the office. No, because they're more likely to talk to you about listing their home for sale. The challenges, and we've probably been in this situation before if we've been doing it for a while, we get real excited about working with a buyer. We're showing them a tons of homes. We're getting into great conversation and dialogue with them. And then next thing you know, they end up listing their house with someone else. How is that possible? I've been working with them. I've been showing them homes. Because you never brought it up. You forget to bring it up because we get so caught up in the excitement of showing homes. So I like to do the buyer consultation at their home, number 1. Number 2, when I do a buyer consultation, now more than ever, I want to make sure I'm discussing with them what their buying power is. So I'm going through what I would consider a buying power checklist. All right. This is separate. I sometimes get on tangents, and I'll give you bonus content. If you've been to any of our events, a lot of times I get on tangents and have conversations about other things that you need to know in relation to real estate. Buying power checklist. What is a buying power checklist? A buying power checklist is everything a buyer needs to know and possibly do to get their offer accepted. And that's something you go over with them during the buyer consultation. So it's a sheet of paper with a list of everything that they need to do in order to make their offer stand out. And you just educate them one by one. Why is a buying power checklist important right now? Because number 1, when inventory is low, we have to get out of the box and we have to be creative with our offers to get them accepted. But number 2, because a lot of buyers, when you go to write an offer and then you have a discussion with them about what it's going to take to get their offer accepted, they don't take your advice. All right. Anybody besides me been in that situation? We've all been in that situation. We give them advice. They don't take it. They're more likely to take your advice if you do the buyer during the buyer consultation, a buying power checklist, which is a list of everything they can do to get their offer accepted. Agents that work with us obviously end up getting a copy of that. I would just make your own. You know what it's going to take to get your offer accepted or to get their offer accepted. Okay, average sales price, average commission check, that's your check after your split. Average hours worked per week, pretty self-explanatory. Current pendings, I need to know if I'm going to figure out projections and what you're going to close, how many do you have pending right now? Present listing inventory, I need to know as part of your plan, if you're going into 2020 and your goal is to sell 20 homes and you have 10 already active going into the new year, well then maybe you don't need to take 20 or 30 more listings. Maybe you only need to take 10 or 12 because we're going to take into consideration what you have rolling into the new year. All right. So I want to know what your present inventory is. Present buyer pipeline. Present buyer pipeline, definition of that are buyers that you're actively showing homes to, either with yourself personally or with a showing agent. Present buyer pipeline is how many buyers you're actively showing homes to. And you'd say, well, what's your timeline on that? I would say within the last 2 weeks. Buyers that you're actively showing homes to in the last 2 weeks. Why are those important? Because just like your listing inventory, those are buyers that are probably going to end up writing, if not writing, for sure closing in 2020, right? Any buyer sale we write in December is probably going to close in 2020 at this point. So I want to have an idea of essentially the carryover business. What are you carrying over into the next year? All right. Total days worked, you could figure that one out. All you have to do is go back and look at your calendar and look at the days that you put stuff in there and look at the days you didn't. Total hours prospected, total contacts. What's the definition of a contact? You guys should all know this by now if you've been following our stuff. Definition of a contact is a response from a decision-making adult, a response. It used to be, the old definition was a hello. Today it's a response. They could respond with go fly a kite. They can respond with whatever they want. As long as they're responding, that counts as a contact. And the last two on there is total number added to database, METs, total number added to database, non-METs, okay? The difference between a MET and a non-MET, all right? A MET would be somebody that you've had a great conversation with. Maybe you met them at their house, you met them at the grocery store, you met them at an open house. They know you, they like you, they're going to trust you at some point because you're going to provide value. That would be somebody that you would add to your database so you could continue to give them value back, whether it's market data, listings, client events, whatever. We'll get into some of the values that you can add in a moment. But these are people that you've met that you're adding to your database that you're going to provide value to. Total number added to database, non-met. These are people that you had a good conversation with, but maybe you haven't met them yet. Maybe you haven't had a chance to, you didn't get a chance to go on that appointment. Perfect example would be someone that says, Jeff, yeah, we're really serious about selling or really serious about moving, but we want to wait until spring. You know, could we put our appointment on hold until the spring? Now, of course, I would go back and watch my objection handler video on how to handle waiting until spring. But if I can't overcome it, I would add them to my database as someone that I haven't met, somebody that I want to follow up with at a later date. Okay, so that's the difference between METs and non-METs. And for those of you that are using our planner, it's at the bottom. By the way, this is, again, I come up with side things from time to time. At the bottom of each page, whether you're using our planner or not, okay, at the bottom of each page, you see that box? This needs to be part of your daily routine. I know it's a little blurry. This needs to be part of your daily routine. And what am I tracking? Contacts made, appointments set, appointments gone on, contracts signed, and add to database. All right, that needs to be my focus for every single day. How many people am I speaking to? How many appointments am I setting? How many appointments am I going on? How many contracts am I getting signed? And if I don't do a good job here, at least did I add somebody to this database, right? That's important. Who do I need to add every single day? Watch this. You add one person to your database every day, and let's say you work 270 working days. Take into consideration you're probably going to work some weekends. So let's say you work 300 working days. That's 300 new people added to your database a year if you just add one person a day. You all have conversations with people, even if it's just, you know, a 2-minute conversation. If you have 10 conversations, I promise you one person will be database worthy. So if you just think about this, one person per day, 300 working days a year, that's 300 added to your database in 1 year. Times that by 5. In 5 years, you have 1,500 people in your database that have had a great conversation with you that you can now add value to. But here's the mistake that a lot of agents make. Because they don't make it a high priority, because it's not part of their daily routine, they don't get added. And it's kind of an afterthought. Oh man, I should have added that person. Well, if you're using a planner like this, and this isn't a sales pitch for a planner, I don't care what planner you use, but you better have some level of daily routine that you're adding every single day. Otherwise, it won't happen, okay? All right, so that is section 1. Section 2, let's talk about the business sources from 2019. So we're on page 2 of the plan, business sources from 2019. Now this, what I want you to do is put in here closed units from each of these sources. Now, and you may work some sources that were not working. Now, these are all the sources that we either work, when I say we, our team at Jeff Glover and Associates, or the agents that coach with us. We have now close to 100 agents that are working with us around the country. These are the sources of business that they're working. We also left you some space for some other ones down there at the bottom. So I want to know closed units from each one of those sources. So if I did 13 deals from my SOI, I'm going to write 13. If I had 7 closings from expireds, I'm going to write the number 7. I just want to see a number of closed units from each one of those sources. All right. Pretty self-explanatory. We've added a few of them, but you guys pretty much get the gist of those. All right. Step 3. This one's a fun one, and this is a new addition for the business plan. We have not focused on this in the past, and it's something that we've added to the plan for this year. Section 3. It's called the double down elimination activity. I'm on the top of page 3. Double down elimination activity. What I want you to do here is twofold. Number one, I want you to go back to your sources, the closed the numbers of closed business from these sources. And I want you to pick one source that you believe you got a good return on your time or your money. It doesn't even have to be your number one source. It can be your number two source. It can even be your number three source. Just pick one that you believe based on the time that you put in or the money you put in, you got a pretty good return. So for instance, a good example may be, well, I did 24 open houses in 2019 and I did 12 transactions. That means every other open house, I get a deal out of it. Probably a pretty good use of your time. If you figure an open house is 3 hours plus drive time, okay, let's just call it 4 hours per open house. Okay, 2 open houses, that's 8 hours for one transaction. What do you make on that one transaction divided by 8 hours? That's a good use of your time. You might want to consider increasing that number to 36 or even double down 48. Or you may look at, well, my sphere of influence and past client was really good to me this year. You know, I know a lot of people, but I feel like I could do better. Well, if you think you could do better from your sphere of influence, your past clients, the answer is probably yes. There's a kind of an old rule of thumb that's been around a long time, and that is called the 10% rule. And what the 10% rule, and by the way, the 10% rule, the reason why this plan is important, the 10% rule is being challenged right now because there's so many things that have come in and made it easier for consumers to be less loyal to us. So for those of you that remember the golden 10% rule, which I'll share in a second, it's being challenged right now. Who knows, in 3 years, we might call it the 8% rule. Anyways, what the 10% rule says is that if you have 100 people in your database, meaning names, phone numbers, email addresses, home addresses, contacts, they know you, they like you, they trust you. We're talking the Mets, okay? By the way, have not Mets, you know, those could be a Zillow lead. That could be somebody that you had a conversation with, but it went very well, but you haven't met them yet. I'm talking just your Mets for a second. The 10% rule applies to your Met database. And these are the people that know you, like you, trust you. What it says that if you have 100 people in your database, 10% rule is the goal. You should be getting 10 transactions from that group. Now that doesn't mean you're going to have 10 people out of 100 move and use you. You might only have 3, but you get 7 referrals to make up the other, right? So 10% of the number of people in your database is the transaction number of deals that you should get from it. So let's look at it this way. Bigger scale. You have 1,000 people in your database. You should be doing 100 transactions from your database if you're following the 10% rule properly. Now, following the 10% rule properly means you have to add value to your database, which we'll get to in a little bit. It's a whole nother discussion, quite honestly, but we'll talk about that. I'll touch on that a bit. So if I know I'm getting a good return on my database, but I did, let's say, just using the example of 1,000 people in my database, I have 1,000 people in my database and I did 50 deals for my database. That means I had the 5% return. That's half of 10%. That means there's probably more I can do to get that number up. So therefore, I'm going to write down database business. I'm going to double down on database business next year because I got a good return. I think I can get even a better return. Remember the rule of 10%. And also know that the rule of 10% is being challenged. So how do we overcome it? We either A, add more value, B, build a bigger database and play the numbers game. In other words, if the rule of thumb was 10 and let's say this year it's 8, well, if I add more people to my database, I'm still going to get the same return. Or you can do what we're doing next year, and that is building a bigger database and adding value to it, which will keep us at that 10% level. Or for some of our agents that aren't at that level, get to that level. So source to double down on. What does doubling down mean? Doubling down means increasing your activities, increasing your efforts, increasing your spend sometimes on a source to get more out of it. A true double down is doubling my activity. You know, I did 24 open houses last year and I got 12 deals. I'm going to do 48 and I'm going to get 24. That is a pure example of doubling down. Or it can be on Zillow, Realtor.com a spend. I spent $2,000 a month on Zillow, $24,000 annually, and I did 10 transactions from it. And of those 10 transactions, I made $48,000. I spent 24 to make 48. I'm going to double my spend. I'm going to go from 24 to 48 and turn that into 100,000. Doesn't always work that way the first year, by the way, but that is an example of doubling down. The next one is source to eliminate. What do I mean by source to eliminate? What I mean by source to eliminate is you go back to section 2, and you look at all your business sources. And you look at a source that you would say was kind of a pain in the neck. You know, I'll use open houses as an example again, because I know some of you guys love open houses, some of you hate them. You could say to me, Jeff, I did 12 open houses last year and I got 1 deal from it. I can attribute one deal from my 12 open houses last year. And then I would say to you, okay, how long were your open houses if I was coaching you today? 3 hours, okay, plus drive time, 4 hours. 12 times 4, 48 hours for one transaction. Okay, let's do some math. You made $3,000 on the deal, divided by 48 hours. You'd be better off working at Starbucks. So we're going to eliminate that source from your plan next year. So one thing we're encouraging agents to do is eliminate one source and double down on one source. The reason why we need to eliminate one is because we only have so much time or spend available. So in order to double down on something, I normally need to get some time available to double down on something. So that means I need to eliminate something. So that would be a source that you would say gives you a low ROI on either your time or your money. All right. So the activity I just gave of the open houses, that's an example of how it's a lower ROI on your time. It could be Zillow. It could be whatever, right? You could be in the other boat and say, I spent $24,000 last year on Zillow and I did 3 deals from it. What'd you make on those 3 deals? $3,000 a pop, $5,000 a pop, whatever it is, $15,000. Okay. And you probably had some expenses, administrative expenses. All right. Well, next thing you know, you're spending 24 to make 15. Doesn't make sense. Let's go ahead and eliminate that. And oh, by the way, instead of spending 24,000, let's spend 15,000, but let's put it towards your database as a for instance. So we either need to move money or we need to move time. And that's the purpose of section 3 in the plan. Okay, section 4, one of my favorite parts. This is where you get to say, here's what I want to make. All right. Now, for those of you that have been doing it a year or two, okay, for those of you that have been doing it a year or two, it's not uncommon that you could actually double your business in year 1 to year 2. The reason is because the learning curve is so steep in that first and second year in the business. So if you're, hey, Jeff, first year in the business, I did 12 deals. It's not uncommon that you would do 24 deals, right? Or 20 deals or 30 deals. I'm okay with you setting a goal to double your business. All right. Here's the challenge. For those of you that have been doing it longer, that learning curve has diminished to some degree. So the percentage at which you can increase your skills, the percentage at which you can increase your conversion is a lot smaller in year 3 to 4 and 4 to 5 and 5 to 7, 7 to 10 and so on than it is in those first couple of years. So if you're looking for kind of a rule of thumb, a good rule of thumb is at a minimum standard, everyone should have a plan. If you're of the mindset that you want to increase your business and increase your income, because by the way, we have associates that work with us that say, you know what, Jeff, I just want to make the same. I made $100,000 last year. I'm good with that number, but I want to figure out a way to work 40 hours a week instead of 50. Awesome. I love it. So then you'd write that down as your goal. And as we go through the plan, you'd specify how we're going to do that in less time. But as a rule of thumb, you want to increase. If you're kind of the ambitious, the go-getter, yeah, I got to increase. This is business. Ford or GM or Chrysler, they don't have a goal to do less every year. They have a goal to do more. So what is that rule of thumb? Well, that rule of thumb is 20% increase. The rule of thumb is 20%. Now, some of you can get up to, again, I'm talking to the folks that have been doing this 3 to 5 years or more. 20% is the rule of thumb. Some of you can get up to a 30 to 35% increase year over year. It's extremely difficult to double your business once you've been doing it 3-4 years, unless you were just part-time or you have a unique situation. So the rule of thumb is you should have if you did 50 deals next year, your goal this year is 60 to 65, right? 20 to 30% increase. All right. So that's how you determine what you should increase. Now, if your goal is to do the same amount of business in less time, then you'd write that down. And then we talk about how we're going to do that as we go on. Okay. Total income. So closed deal goal. Well, that's how you determine your total income based on what your average commission check is, which we talked about in section 1 and 2. Times the closed deal. Boom. There's your new income. Now, why is there a written sales goal right below that? Well, because not all of the deals that you write are going to close. Our rule of thumb on that is also 85% of deals written to deals closed. So if I want to do 100 deals next year, let's just say, I need to write 115 to get to 100 closed deals. And then, so when I think about what I need to do each month, I would take 115, divided by 12. And then that's my number I need to hit each month. So your written sales goal and your closed deal goal should be about 85% of what your written sales goal is. So if you say to me, Jeff, my goal is to close 50. I want to hit that 50 number. That's the benchmark. Well, I'm going to say to you, you probably need to write about 56 to 58 units to close 50. That's what that is. Of course, then your total income, you take your average check times closed units, boom, there's your total income. Now, for those of you that are saying, well, yeah, but my goal is to increase my average sales price next year, I will tell you this. You can definitely put an effort to increase your average sales price and probably do that. Based on the market we're in, I'm seeing appreciation across the board slow down. So to be conservative, we're telling all the agents that work with us, I want you to keep your average check or your average sales price the same in 2020 as it was in 2019. Now, if I was talking to you in 2017 and we just saw a huge increase in value from 2016 to 2017 and all the trends were saying that values were going up, then I would say, okay, values increased by 10% in 2016. Let's plan on that again in 2017 because we see that trend. Well, right now we're seeing the trend come the other way. We're starting to see a slowdown in appreciation. So we're telling agents that work with us to leave that number the same. If your average check was $2,750 in 2019, then your average check in 2020 is going to be $2,750 because we believe the market's going to be about the same. Maybe a couple point increase, but I'd rather be conservative. Okay, how many days am I going to be working? How much time am I going to spend prospecting? You know, we recommend a minimum of 2 hours a day. Some of people that work with us are only doing 60 to 90 minutes, and some people are doing up to 3 hours. So everyone should have a specified amount of time that they're prospecting. Contacts per day goal. We had a great half-day session a couple weeks ago. We called it the Duel in Detroit. One of the agents in the audience asked about the contacts per day, contacts per hour. Although that number is dropping over the phone, we're picking up those contacts in other areas, either through text messaging or through emailing. So you're, as a rule of thumb, your contacts per hour should still be around 8 to 10 contacts per hour. If you're really efficient and really intense with your prospecting, you can probably get to more like 11, 12, 13 contacts per hour. But as a rule of thumb, 10 contacts per hour is still achievable. It's just not all over the phone. And if you're wondering, well, where's all these are all for other sessions, right? Today's the business plan. We're not going to dig too much into that. I'm already past the halfway point. Okay, listing appointments set, listings gone on, listings taken, listing sales written. All right, we already talked about some of those ratios. You should know your ratios as time goes on. Buyer consults, buyer's offer written, buyer sales written goal, okay, because not all of your offers are going to be accepted. Total combined written sales. So this is where I take the listing sales written and the buyer sales written and combine those two. That number should match the second line, right? So if I want to close 50, my written sales goal on the second line is 57 and down here it's 57. Those two numbers should match, all right? Goals for hour work per week, days work per week. I always encourage agents, especially in your first 5 years in the business, 5.5 to 6 days per week is the norm if you're full-time and you want to sell at least 25 to 30 homes a year. 5.5 to 6 days a week, your first 2-3 years in the business. You do get the luxury as time goes on. A lot of our associates, we're going through the business plan with them right now, or our coaching clients, where we're asking them, how many weekends do you want to take off per month? So then they're identifying, I'm going to work 2 weekends per month in the next 12 months, or 3 weekends per month, whatever it is. Everyone's still working some level of weekends because that's the business we chose, by the way. But if we're newer in the business, then obviously we should be working every single weekend if you want to sell 25, 30 plus homes a year. All right, total contacts added to database. There that is again, Mets and have not met. All right, we already covered that. Okay, let's move on to section 5, the financial model. Section 5, the financial model. Take a sip of my Live on Real water. It's really just sparkling water, but these water bottles are amazing. Keeps things cold. Okay, so section 5, 2020 financial model. So I'm going to look at, all right, income, gross commission generated. Now this is top line income. This is income before splits. This is basically if you were to take, let's say your average is 3% on every single transaction. If you're going to take all those 3% and add them up, that's your gross commission. All right. Most of you either are a solo agent or an agent on a team. Regardless, you're going to have some fees to the team or some fees to the brokerage. After those fees, you would write in the net revenue. And then if you're in a business where you get paid for home warranties or you get transaction fees or something on top of your commission, you'd add that to that third line. So let's just say, for sake of argument, my gross commission generated was $200,000 and I'm on a 50-50 split with my team. Then my net revenue after splits would be $100,000, right? So 200, 100. And let's say I sold 10 home warranties and I got paid a little extra on my transaction fee for a total of another $8,000. So my total net revenue would be $108,000. All right. So that's what I'd write on that total net revenue line. Then I would back out all my expenses because you're going to have some. Now, here's the deal. The one thing I wanted to point out to you on the section 4. So go back to section 4. That's something I forgot to cover with you. Section 4, total expenses. Okay. This is very important. Total expenses on section 4. It says 10 to 50%. Now, the way our business is structured today is this. If you're an agent on a team, your expenses are probably somewhere between 5 and 15%. All right. We find that most agents that are on teams, they average about 10 to 12, maybe 15% of their income goes towards their expenses, vehicle expenses. Maybe they're paying for a little bit of leads. Maybe they're paying for signs, right? When you're on a team, your expenses are a lot lower. When you're a solo agent, your expenses are a lot higher. Most solo agents, by the way, are spending anywhere from 25% on the low end to up to 50% on the high end. All right, so that goes back to that whole thing about split versus net, which some of you may have seen my video on that. At the end of the day, whether you're a solo agent or on a team, your net still ends up being the same. It's just about how much you apply yourself and how great the team is that you work for. Obviously, that helps. But if you're an agent on a team, your number is probably going to be somewhere between 5 and 15%. If you're a solo agent, your total expenses are probably going to be between 25% and 50% per transaction. All right, and you'll be able to determine that once you follow the financial model on section 5. So you add up all your expenses, going back to section 5. You tally up all your expenses, you write down total expenses. Take your net revenue minus your total expenses, and then there's your net operating income, also known as Uncle Sam's portion, or Uncle Sam gets a portion of that. That's your taxable income. All right, that's section 5. Now, for those of you that haven't done a profit and loss statement in the past, make this the first year you do one. That's why we put it in the plan. It's new to the plan this year. Okay, turn the page. We're on page 5 at the top, section 6. Again, if I'm moving fast, that's because I only have 1 hour, and this is going to be recorded and it's going to be sent out, so you're going to get a copy of this, all right? Section 6, action plans to implement to generate new business. This particular section we broke up into 2 categories. We used to just have this in 1 category, and it would just be action items to implement. Well, now we broke it up into 2. And the reason why we broke it up to 2, because there's 2 types of clients I want you to focus on in 2020. This goes back to why this focus is important with what's changing in the industry. I want you to focus on bringing clients into the funnel. What can you do? Imagine you've got this big funnel that you're walking around with. Everyone's walking around with this big funnel. Section 6 is designed to be 5, 6, 7. You don't have to give me 10. Maybe it's 3 things, whatever the number is. 7 things, 8 things that you're going to do to put people into your funnel. What are you going to do to go out and get people in your funnel? That's what section 6 is all about. So, it might be I'm going to prospect expires every day from 9 to 10. I'm going to door knock from 4 to 5, whatever. Things to go out and meet strangers. Remember I said the 2 types of people? These are all the things you're going to do to get in front of the people that you don't know. What are things you're going to do to get in front of that crowd? Section 7 is the things you're going to do to add value to the crowd that's already in the middle of the funnel. Your database, your past clients, your current clients, your sphere of influence. So section 6 is all about what I'm going to do to put people in the funnel. How am I going to get people to hear about me? How am I going to talk to people? What am I going to do to generate new clients? Section 7 is taking the clients you already have, past clients, sphere of influence, and pouring value into them. So that way it turns out that it leads to R&R. Nope, that's not rest and relaxation. That's repeat and referral business. So how can I add value to the database to generate more repeat and referral business? And I want that to be a focus this year. By the way, that part of the plan is brand new. Okay, you're going to see it as part of the plan in future years as well, because our loyalty from our clients is being tested right now more than ever. Section 8. And by the way, there's data that backs that up. For those of you that haven't been to one of my half-day sessions that we're doing around the country right now, there's actual data from the National Association of Realtors, the profile of home buyers and sellers, which I should have started with that. Everyone should print that report every single year. When we go to do our company business plan, we're Googling NAR, National Association of Realtors, profile of home buyer and sellers report. When we put that date, when we put our plan together, we're looking at that report because we're looking for trends. Well, one of the trends that's in the report, you can go back, you'll have to scroll far, but if you can get your hands on the 2010 report and compare it to the 2019 report, one of the trends that you'll find is that consumers are using other methods other than repeat and referrals, other than referrals from family and friends to learn of the real estate agents, which is causing it to be a lower percentage of how they found their agent. That number is down. All right. That number is dropping. Repeat referrals are declining. So that's why the focus for 2020 is how do we add more value to get that number back up? And of course, as we talked about a few minutes ago, A plus B, adding people to the database, okay, which is at the bottom of the daily plan, should be part of our daily plan, plus adding value is going to keep that number going. All right, so that's section 7. Action items that add value, whether you're doing client events, whether you're doing mailings, whether you're doing phone calls. This particular week, we're doing something called database days, where we go out to our entire database and we call them and we say, thank you for your business. Hi, this is your realtor, Jeff Glover. Thank you for your business. And more importantly, I wanted to wish you and your family a happy Thanksgiving. If there's anything I can do for you or anyone you know, I hope that you'll keep me in mind. Very warm and fuzzy call, value added call. Oh my gosh, Jeff, you didn't have to do that. That's so kind of you. We're calling all of our past clients and current clients and sphere of influence with those calls right now. They're the warmest, fuzziest calls that you can make. And why would I make them right now? Because you're going to be in a situation in a couple days where more family and friends are going to see more family and friends in one day than they probably saw in the entire last month. And I want to be top of mind because somebody's talking about, buying or selling a home. Somebody's talking about who had a kid. Somebody's talking about getting married. Somebody's talking about making offers and not getting them accepted. Real estate is going to come up. So since I know it's going to come up, I want to be top of mind. How do I do that? I call my database and say, thank you for your business and your continued referrals. And more importantly, I want to wish you and your family a happy Thanksgiving. If there's anything I can do for you or anyone you know, I hope you'll keep me in mind. Those types of things go in section 7. The plan for those calls, for those mailings, for those events, for whatever you're doing goes in section 7. Okay? Section 8. When you look at section 6 and 7, you look at all your action items. These are all the things I'm going to do to build a business in 2020. When you look at all of those things, it's going to be glaringly obvious where your business is going to come from next year. So I want you to identify where you think your 3 top sources will be. All right. And you'll just look at section 6 and section 7 to determine that. So it might be sphere of influence past clients. It might be Zillow. It might be open houses. Whatever it is, I want you to identify where you think most of your business is going to come from next year. All right, moving on. Section 9, my new weekend schedule, Saturday or Sunday. We're now at the bottom or at the top of page 6. All right, so at the top of page 6, we got section 9. I want you to write out what your Saturday or what your Sunday is going to look like when you do decide to work weekends. Now, I will never endorse, if you've been to any of my events, I always recommend agents take Sundays off. I believe that's a family day, that's a personal day, that's a day to check out. I've done that for years and years. That's a day where, until the evening, I will start working in the evening and start planning my week, but that's a day to mentally check out and spend time with family, friends, or whatever. So I want to know what your new weekend schedule is going to look like. You're not working from 8 a.m. until 8 p.m. So we just put we put a little window in there for you to operate from. And I want to know how many weekends per month you're doing it. All right. Section 10, my new morning routine. Hear me loud and clear on this. If you have a goal to increase your business in 2020, you will not do it without changing your morning routine. It won't happen. Because the morning routine is designed for income producing activities, which is where that business is generated. So I want to know, now in the past, we used to say, okay, what are you doing from the time you get up until the time you're home with your family, your friends, your kids? I want to know what you're doing all day long. We would put these agent business plans together based on everything they're doing all day long. Well, the reality is I don't care what you're doing in the afternoon or in the evening anymore, because all I care about is what you do in the morning. Win the morning, own the day. If you master your morning routine and it's focused on income producing activities, everything else will fall into place. So I want to know, notice I gave you 30-minute increments, right? I want to see an intense morning routine. That means it has the same start time every day and it has the same activity at the same time every single day. So don't be writing closing, 9 a.m. closing, unless you're going to have a closing every day, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday at 9 a.m. Don't write in closing at 9 a.m. Instead, write in return Zillow lead calls or call for sale by owners or whatever it is you're doing to income produce, right? It goes back to that quote we have on a wall in the back of our office that says, if I didn't go on an appointment today, seriously, what did I accomplish? So therefore, my entire morning routine is designed to generate an appointment, all right? That's what goes in section 10, and it doesn't change. Remember, 2 things I want you to remember on that. Same start time, and you do the same things at the same times, all right? Section 11, possible challenges and solutions, accountability needs. These are things that could come up that would throw you off track. Well, I have trouble, I wrote in there that I'm going to be in the office every day at 8 a.m. My challenge will be getting in the office every day at 8 a.m. All right, so what could a solution be to that? What kind of accountability do you need to put in place? Do you need to work a deal out with somebody in the office, write them checks or hand them cash if you're not in by a certain time? Basically, possible future solutions. I've also had agents write down, I'm getting married this year, and I know that I'm going to be out for the entire month of May. Okay, good. So when we're writing your plan, then that means we probably have to double up your March or your April to make up for the business that you're going to lose in the month of May by being gone a month. Whatever it is that could put you behind in the year 2020, let's identify it in advance and put a plan in place prior to the year starting. All right, section 12 is a new part of the plan. We're on page 7. This is a business, sales, and life skills development plan. This is where I want you to write a minimum of 5. I want you to just go ahead and write the number 5 and circle it somewhere around there. I want you to write in 5 things that you're going to do in 2020 to improve for personal development and growth. All right. So for instance, since you're already writing the number 5, I want everyone to grab their pen. Okay. You probably knew I was going to do this. Under events, I want you to write Live Unreal Summit, Orlando. All right. Under events, Live Unreal Summit, Orlando. If you want more information, go to liveunrealsummit.com. Regardless, the reason why I'm having you do this is because I want you to write 3 to 5 things that are going to cause you to get out of your box and get exposure to other people who are doing great things. So you might write events, Live Unreal and, the Coldwell Banker Conference or the Keller Williams Conference or whatever. You might write coaching, sign up for ABC Coaching Company, sign up for Glover U Coaching, whatever. I don't care what you write down. Accountability. Find somebody in the office to hold me accountable to getting in at this time, or find an accountability partner. All right. Podcasts. I'm going to listen to the following podcasts in 2020 to give me more exposure, to give me more positive things. Speaking of podcasts, go ahead and write Live Unreal Podcast. The Live Unreal Podcast is a place where once or twice a week, I'm pouring into the industry with things I'm doing in the business and on the ground every single day. Right? I'm not talking about things I was doing in the past. All right. That's Live Unreal Podcast. All right. You can go search that in wherever you find podcasts. What am I going to do for my health? What time am I going to work out each day? What am I going to do for my wealth? How am I going to put money away? What am I going to invest? How am I going to improve relationships? This is all about a personal development plan. Now, of course, some of these things are business related, which of course lead to helping your personal life as well. But I want you to write down things that you're going to do to improve your personal life in 2020. And that would be section 12 of the plan. And if I could have my staff share the podcast in there, that would be great as well, please. Okay. Section 13. This is a new one also for the plan. Some of you may have heard this before, so we're going to break it down a little bit for you. And we're not calling it, somebody called it this. I don't know who did. So sorry if I'm missing giving someone credit, but I'm not taking claim for it. But we're putting it into a plan, so I will take claim for that. And that is, it's called the 15th protocol plan. We're at the top of page 8. By the way, 2 things. Actually, go back to 7. I do want to give you a couple books that you should purchase for 27 or for 2020. Okay, I brought 3 with me. All right, one of them is called Leading with Passion. 10 Essentials for Inspiring Others. These are simple. These are quick and simple reads. Okay, Leading with Passion. 10 Essentials for Inspiring Others. The author is John Murphy. The second book is called Pulling Together. Can you put these in the comments as well? Pulling Together, 10 Rules for High Performance Teamwork, also by John Murphy. Final book, The How of Wow, Secrets Behind World-Class Service, also author John Murphy. Okay, I would get your hands on these 3 books. We hired a consultant about 4 years ago that came into our world and looked at things that we could improve on as a company. And I will tell you, this book in particular, The How of Wow, changed our customer experience and changed our culture and our focus towards how do we add more value to the customer. And so it just so happens, while we're talking about the Live Unreal Summit, I have the author of these books, plus plenty others, John Murphy, as one of our keynotes at the summit in Orlando. So he will be taking the stage. Really, really great experience to have him there, considering 4 years ago I had no idea who the guy was. Okay, and while you're also writing down books, I'll give you another one. This one's totally free, all right, and that is the Glover Gazette. You guys have probably seen this. Most of you guys probably subscribe to it. It's once a quarter. We put out 40, 50 pages, whatever it is, of solid sales and business advice. Read this quarterly. When it comes out, get your hands on it. If you want a copy of it, you can get this at gloveru.com/Gazette. It's gloveru.com/Gazette. We'll put that in the comments as well. You can subscribe to that. That's totally free. Okay, back to the plan. Section 13, the 15th protocol. If I'm behind on my goals at the midway point each month, I commit to the following action items during the last half of the month. Here is why the 15th protocol is important. 15th protocol is important because in business and in life, and especially in the real estate business, we are programmed to, if we have a bad month, have the mentality that we can just make up for it next month, right? I had a bad January, so let's make up for it in February. I had a bad February, so let's make up for it in March. The 15th protocol is designed to create a little bit more urgency and to shrink that mentality from a 30-day makeup mentality to a 15-day makeup mentality. So instead of having a month to make up for something, you shorten it to 15 days. So what the 15th protocol is this. The 15th protocol is 3 to 5 prearranged things that I commit to doing if I'm not on track with my goals by the 15th of the month. So instead of looking back at the end of January and saying, man, that was not a great month, which we've all been there. All right, I need to make up for it in February. Well, now you're looking at just the 1st through the 15th. And then you're saying, I need to make up for it in the last half of the month. All right, so the goals to measure, you would write in something, what I recommend would be simplest thing you can do, listings taken and homes sold. Whether it's a buyer sale or a listing sale, I don't care. Listings taken and homes sold is a good goal to measure. So let's say your goal is to take 4 listings a month and to have 4 sales. You know, maybe 3 of those 4 listings sell and then you have 1 buyer sale. Very reasonable business. 4 listing sales and 4 listings taken and 4 sales, combination of listings and buyers. So I would write goals to measure, 4 listings taken and 4 sales pended. And then I would have 3 to 5 things, agreements with myself that I would do or agree to do if I'm not on track with my goals. So it could be, you know what, if by the 15th, so if by the 15th I need to have, it's 4 and 4, I need to have 2 and 2. So if I have 2 and 2, I don't have to change a thing. But if by the 15th I only have 1 listing and I only have 2 sales, then I need to get on my butt or off my butt, get on my butt, off my butt, whatever. I need to get off my butt and get into action. So I would write down 3, 4, 5 things that I'm going to do in the last half of the month to get things turned around and get back on track. You can see when you create urgency around breaking it the month in half versus just waiting until next month, how your results could go up. Now, these things could be, I'm going to hold 1 more open house in the last half of the month, or I'm going to come in 30 minutes earlier. I'm going to stay 30 minutes later. I'm going to have 2 prospecting evening sessions. Whatever it is, I'm going to write down 3, 4, 5 things that I'm committing to do if I'm not on track for my goals. All right. And that is a decision. That's something that I'm making ahead of time. It's part of my plan. And then by the 15th, when we do our meetings with our associates or the agents that work with us, we're going to ask you, how are you doing on your 15th protocol? Well, my goal is 4 and 4. I'm at 2 and 2. I'm good. I don't have to change a thing. But if you're 4 and 4 and you're at 1 and 1, 15th protocol kicks in. 3, 4, 5 things that I'm going to do in the last half of the month to get back on track. All right, section 14. Describe what an unreal life means to you. This is also something that's new for the plan for 2020. What an unreal life means to me. Think of what unreal life is, first of all, okay? Unreal. The definition of unreal in our world is something so amazing, it's almost unbelievable. So when you hear us, when you see us print things on t-shirts and on water bottles that say unreal, we mean unreal is something so amazing, it's almost unbelievable. That's our definition of unreal. So everything we do is to help our associates or those that work with us in our coaching programs or at our events to live unreal lives on this earth. We only have so much physical time to make connections, to make contents, to make contacts, to spend time with family, to spend time with friends. We only have so much time on this earth that it better be an unreal life. And so when you think about what would an unreal life look like for me in 2020, it can be business related, it can be personal related, it could be a mixture of both. I want you to write in here a couple sentences or maybe even a paragraph, maybe even several pages of what an unreal life means to you. All right, that's what section 14 is. What does living unreal mean to you? What does your life look like when it's unreal? And by the way, that's our focus of agents that work with us in our coaching programs. We start with that. What does an unreal life look to you? That's where we set the bar. And then we say, okay, here's what we need to do to get there. All right. Final section of the plan, and probably my favorite section of the plan, and it's also a new edition, section 15. And we called it Life at the New Level. Life at the new level. Here's what it means. All right. So let's just say, for instance, to keep numbers simple, you made $50,000 last year. Actually, to keep it even simpler, we're going to say 48,000. So you would write in there a 48,000 is my, or I'm sorry, 48,000 divided by 12. You'd write 4,000. Okay, I'm writing that now. 4,000 is, now you don't have to write. I'm just doing this for my mind here. My average monthly income in 2019 was $4,000 a month, 48,000. We're talking taxable income. Okay. My goal this year is $100,000 a year. All right. Now, of course, we had the whole conversation about doubling in 1 year is difficult. If you're past 3, 4, 5 years in the business, you should look for a 20 to 30% increase. But let's just say you made 48,000 your first year. Okay. So doubling it is not out of the question for year 2. So your new monthly average income would be $8,000. Now, here's what I want you to do. I want you to grab a clean sheet of paper. Okay. And I want you to do a simple activity. I want you to take a clean sheet of paper and I want you to draw a line, yellow pad or whatever. I want you to draw a line down the center, and I'll hold this up and show you what it looks like. And at the top, I want you to write 4,000. And on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, I want you to write 8,000. Okay, very simple. Clean sheet of paper, line down the middle, 4,000 on the left. That's what I made this year per month on average. Now I understand maybe 1 month you had 8,000 in income, 1 month you had 1,000. You take the total, you divide it by 12. That's what I averaged per month, $4,000. My goal next year is to make 100,000. So I'm going to go from 48 to 100, $8,000 a month on the right-hand side, line down the middle. On the left-hand side, I want you to write, this is a very crucial activity. All right. This is a new thing for our plan in 2020, and it's something that we're going to continue to focus on moving forward. I want you to tell me what your life looks like at $4,000 a month. I want you to tell me the kind of house you have, the kind of car you drive, how old your kids are, what colleges they're in, or what school they're at. If they're in private school, if they're in public school, I want to know what your payments are. I want to know what your car payment is, your house payment. I want to know if you have rental properties. I want to know if you have an investment home. I want to know what vacations you took. I want to know what you invested in. I want to know how much you put away. I want to know at $4,000 a month what your life looked like. This is an important part of the plan, and this is a confidential plan. You're not sharing it with me. Now, if you're in our coaching programs, then yeah, your coach is going to see it because we're going to coach you to this. But this is yours to keep, right? So this is confidential. Yellow pad or whatever. Write out what your life looks like at $4,000 a month. This is one of the most crucial steps in the plan. You cannot skip this step. On this side, I want you to write out what your life is going to look like at $8,000 a month. What kind of car you'll drive, what kind of house you have, what you'll put away, what you'll invest in, what vacations you'll take, where you'll send your kids to school, what you'll buy for your family, what you'll do for your family, what you'll do for your kids. I want to know at $8,000 a month what your life looks like. And here's what I can tell you. If you can clearly define for me what it looked like at 4 and what it's going to look like at 8, and there better be some differences. If it's clear that there's some differences between $4,000 a month lifestyle and an $8,000 a month lifestyle, if it's black and white, I can look at this and say, wow, you got a lot of plans next year. You're doing a lot of exciting things. So you're going there, you're upgrading this, you're investing that, you're paying down this debt, you're paying this off. That's awesome. If you can tell me what you're going to do with an extra $4,000 per month, you're already on your way. If you can't, we got a problem. And that's the challenge with this industry is agents make just enough money to pay the bills and have a little bit left over because they don't have a burning desire to put in the extra effort. You won't get that burning desire unless you are clear about this. You won't have the burning desire to come in earlier or stay later or unless you're clear about what this is going to get you. So as the last step and the last part of your plan, I want you to spend time looking at what your life looks like at $4,000 a month, what it looks like at $8,000 a month. Last and certainly not least, turn the page 9, okay? We got an event coming up. We got an event coming up in Orlando, Florida, all right? $299 for 3 days on a focus of building a massive database, adding value to it, and getting the most out of it. So if you're like me and you're looking at what's happening in the industry and you're thinking to myself, I need new ways to build a database and I need a way to add value to it so I get a better return, then you're going to want to come join us at this event in Orlando, Florida. It's at the Omni Resort at Champions Gate. You can check it out. I'm not going to give you the full sales pitch. You can check it out on your own by going to liveunrealsummit.com. That's LIVEUNREAL. The word summit.com. from all parts of the country, from all companies, from all brands. Bruce Himmelstein, the creator of the Ritz-Carlton Experience, he's going to be one of our keynotes. John Murphy, the author of the books that I just shared with you, and a whole slew of other people that have had to build a massive database, add value to it, and get the most out of it. So if you'd like to join us, we'd love to see you. That's liveunrealsummit.com. And what's wrong with Florida in the middle of January anyways? It's January 6th, 7th, and 8th. We purposely picked a weekend, or we purposely picked a Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday so people could spend the weekend prior. We also wanted to do it early enough in the year so that way you're not missing out on business. When you get back, you'll be able to hit the ground running. We're staying at the Omni Resort at Champions Gate. We've got a discounted rate of $185 per night. And most parts of the country, by the way, right now are still $250 or less for a flight to Orlando that weekend. Most people are coming in Sunday and going home Wednesday. Again, if you want to check it out, that's liveunrealsummit.com. We put on 2 major events a year, and that is going to be our biggest event, by the way. It's the first time we're bringing it outside of the state of Michigan in a big way, and I know we're planning on having a ton of people down there. So we will see you guys. Let's have an awesome 2020. It's a new decade. It's time to kick some butt. We'll see you guys soon. Bye-bye.